Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatvam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarobrinam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanarobrinam Vande Guru Shri Charanarobrinam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasurasena Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarobindam Taranga Bhajo Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Nirmajanado Shri Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanarobindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satvana Triptan Kritva Tripti Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarobindam Shiradikamo Davayorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Savdanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarobindam Nekunjayono Ratikeli Sridhyai Jayali Bhejuktir Apekshaniya Nikunjayono Jayali Bhejuktir Tatratidakhya Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarobindam Sakshadharittvena samasta shastre rutastatthava vataiva sadhuvin shastre rutastatthava kintu pravarja priya eva tasya vande gurashi charanara vrindam priya eva tasya yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasadam nagati kutapi yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam yasya prasadam Dhyayam stuvam tasya yasatri sandhyam vande gurashi charanara vindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Tale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Same Niti Namine Nama Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Patata Deshatarine Namaste Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hariyaraye Nama Krishna Jadavaye Nama Hariyaraye Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madhana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadrama, Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Pramanande, Hari Hari Haribo. Jai Vishnu Paramparamsa Prabhajakacharya Suttara Shri Shimati Divine Grace Abhocharvina Bhakti Viranta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Pratishta Vividi Samstapakachar Vaishnav Siromani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patiti Udhara Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatana Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Das Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai. Ananta Kuti Vaishnavrind Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय. जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय. प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जना का प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमान गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृनाय अवतार की जय. गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जय. Bhirav Nidanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopuk Narada Kund Samakund Giriraj Goputhan ki jai. Shri Braja Bhimvrindavan Mathuradam ki jai. The Lordship Shri Radha Nilamadhava ki jai. Shri Maipanavadip Eka Chakradam ki jai. Paramakaruna Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Purushottama Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Shrimad Subhadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman ji ki jai. Shri Lakshmi Nakshingare Bhagavan ki jai. Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Maturadharani ki jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Nitai Gauradi Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Hari Bol.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladhaladadaine.
Praladhaladadaine.
Hiranyakashipurvakshaya. Shilatankanakalaye.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Ito Nisinga Parato Nisinga.
Yato yato yami tato Narsimha.
Jaya Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisinga.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha.
Bahir Nisinga Hridaye Nisinga.
Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasimha Madhim Sharanam Prapadye.
Tava kara kamala varenakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipo tanubringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jai jagadish hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Tavakara Kamala Varenakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Kesavadita Naradirupa Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re.
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Jaya Kesavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadish
जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव
जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज
निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल श्री श्री भक्ति पद सर्वज्ञ नाम विनशना कर श्रृंगारी भगवान की जय जय भक्त शिष्ट प्रहलाद महाराज की जय निताय गुरु हरि प्रेमानंदे श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी श्रुतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी श्रुतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावा अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावा अभिलाषी
जितो मारा शरण लो तारा पंचपूरण हो
जितो मार शरण Tara vancha purna.
কৃপা করি করো তারে বৃন্দাবনবাসী
Tumi kripa kare karatare Vrindavanavasi.
মোরায়ে অভিলাষ বিলাস কুঞ্জে দিও বাস
Morae javela Vilasa kunje diyava.
নয়নে হরিব সদা যুগল রূপরাশি
Aminayane vibhosada Jugala ruparasi.
এই নিবেদনা ধারো সাখির অনুগাতা করো
Eni vedana dhara Sakirayano gatakara.
সেবাধিকারা দিয়ে করো নিজদাসী
Sevayadi karadiye karane jadasi.
বিনা কৃষ্ণ দাসে কই এই জিনা মোরা হয়ে
Dina Krishna dasi koi eyena mora.
শ্রী রাধা গোবিন্দা প্রেমে সদা জিনা ভাসি
Shraddha Govinda preme sadayena vasi.
শ্রী রাধা গোবিন্দা প্রেমে সদা জিনা ভাসি
Shri Radha Govinda preme sadayena vasi.
यानि कानि च पापानि भ्रमाहत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Jani kani sapapani Brahmahatari kani sa Tani tani pranashanti Pradakshina pari pari.
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Tani kani sapapani Brahmahatari kani sa Tani tani pranashanti Pradakshina pari pari.
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Tani kani sapapani Brahmatari kani sa Tani tani pranashanti Pradakshina pari pari.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nityai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nityai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की
Jai Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavitamis of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always sing in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishnakam ki jai. Janam Nivapanam Shreyakari Vachandika Vitanam Vidyavadu. is the prime benediction for humanity at large. Holy Spirit, the rise of benediction. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar which is always anxious. Your holy name alone can bring all benediction to the divinity. And thus your hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. It's not even hard and fast rule to energy name. Oh my Lord. Out of guidance, enable us to easily approach by a holy name. But I'm so important to have enough traction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, think oneself Lord and strong in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only one because let it goes for service, birth, after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servant. Yet somehow or other I'm falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, my will and my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly in a chanting holy name. Will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end of the recitation of the name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considered a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrent of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he surely means even the sun doesn't rapidly by his own breast, or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, but he's always my worshipful Lord and unconditional. She's basically my Yeah, I think the best is not chanting the holy name because that should be avoided. They are as follows: one, the blaspheme body, the dedicated life, walk for the holy name of the Lord. Two, consider names, demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be able to go independent from them. Lord Vishnu. Three, persuade the orders of spiritual master. Four, blaspheme the yet or Lord the sons of Vedic version. Five, consider the glory chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Six, to give some interpretation. Seven, to commit sinful activities and strength chanting holy name. Eight, consider chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious activities which offer in Vedas to become nine. Special travel is custom like glorious to holy name. 10. Not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions this matter. It's also an offense to return to what chanting. Maybe the word who claims the Vaishnava and offenses.
In order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let's offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha, Kripasindubhyevcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantharaja Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadya Shayyato Vyaditaratascha Teso Vigyaswara Tene Brahma Hirdaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsudaya Tejo Vari Madam Yata Vinimayo Yatratri Sagomisha Damna Svena Sadani Rastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimaya. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality God, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon the Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes. of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reaction to the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Prujita Kaitravata Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapo Tapa Trayam Mulanam Shimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Purir Ishvaraha Sadyo Hridaya Vrudite Tra Kriti Bihi Sususavistakshana, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam pipata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavaka. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectar and juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punyasravana Kirtana Hiryantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhit Satam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Astapresu Bhadrisu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Vaistaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo bhava kamo lobhadayaschaye chite taranavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarvasamsaya siyante jasya karmani drista evat manishware. Thus Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection, and enables one to come at once to the stage of samsayam samapam, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna, from the Krishna,
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Shri Shri Guru Vastika prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it.
The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud poured water on the forest.
So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material
So the
existence.
spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material.
I offer my respectful base unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master as an ocean of auspicious
My
qualities.
respectful blessings into the lotus feet of such a spiritual master is an ocean of
Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
chanting holy name, dancing, ecstasy, singing, and playing music.
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya
The
Mahaprabhu.
spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya,
Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
because he is relishing the medals of pure devotion.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes his hair stands
He feels quivering in his body,
feels quivering,
and tears flow from his eyes like waves.
tears flow from his eye like
I offer my respectful base unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful blessings to the lotus feet of such a
The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna.
spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship. Shishra.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages disciples in
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They use the eats of beautiful clothes,
clean their temple,
clean the temple,
and perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform others
I offer my respectful base unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful blessings to the lotus.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master is offering Krishna for
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
analyze that which is licked, chewed, drunk,
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad,
when the spiritual master sees that the Lord is satisfied by eating Bhagavad,
he is satisfied.
he is satisfied.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful blessings to the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava.
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika
And their qualities, names, and forms.
and the quality of land.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to bless these things.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful blessings to the lotus feet of such a
The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times need different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana.
The spiritual master is very dear because his experience assisting the gopis of different time with different tasteful arrangement for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my most humble blessings to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most important servitor of the Lord.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Shri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful blessings to lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful blessings to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadi Raja Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadi Adi Govinda Sarvakarana
Chintamani Prakadasatma Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakadasatma Sukalpa
Laksha Vritesha Suravira Vipalyantam
Lakshadesi Suravira Vipalayam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam
Lakshmi Sahasha Satasam Brahmaseyam
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Gopinam Adi Purusham
Venam Kavanta Aravinda Dalayataksham
Venu Kodanta Aravinda Dahra
Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam
Paramvatastamasitam Buddhasum
Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham
Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamalya Vamsi
Alula Chandrakala Sarvanamajam
Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam
Varnashadam Chibanayakeli Kalavilas
Shamam Chibanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam
Shamam Tubana Lalitam Yatapakasam
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Santi Panti Kalyanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manasomuri Pungamanam Sopyastiyat Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ekopya Soruchayatam Jagadanda Kotyam Yaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Anantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayanubusaha Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hridayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amenatistan Nanavatar Makarod Bhuvanesa Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti Koti Swasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Mayahi Yasya Jagananda Satani Sute Jai Gunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitayamanam Sadvavalambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jaya Yajasram Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Goloka Namni Nichadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesa Haridama Sute Sutesu Te Te Prabhavani Chaya Vitascha Yena Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichchana Rupam Apiyasya Chachestatesa Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shiram Yata Dadivikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetoho Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Departure Eva Hitasantaram Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivita Hitu Samanu Dharma Yastadrik Eva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga. Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha. Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya. Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagrandanataha. Vishnu Mahansahi Yasya Kalavishesho. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha. Sriyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadvatatra. Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Pada Palava Yukam Vinidaya Kumbha. Dvandve Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Rajaha. Vignan Vihantamalom Asya Jagatrayasya. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Agnir Mahiga Ganamam Bhumaruti Sascha. Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani. Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti. Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahanam. Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha. Yasyagya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakra. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapamsi. Rama Dikita Patagava Deyascha Jivaha. Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yastrindra Gopa Matavendras Maho Swakarma. Bandana Rupa Palapajana Matanoti. Karmani Nirdahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Vitti. Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Vasevya Bhavahai. Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo. Druma Bhumish Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam. Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priyasaki. Chidadantam Jyoti Param Apitad Asvadyam Apicha. Sayatra Siradi Bhishravati Sirabi Vyascha Sumahan. Nime Sardakyu Vavrajati Nahiya Trapim Samaya. Bhajay Swita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokamitiyam. Vidantaste Santakshiti Viravachara Katipaye. Ishopanishadi ki jai om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachite Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Ishavaishamidam Sarvam Jakinja Jagatyam Jagatina Taktena Bunjitaha Mahagritaha Kasasvidhanam. Kurvan evaha karmani jiva chekchatam samaha evam tvayi nanyatetusti na karma lipite na e. Karmani tvayi nanyatetusti na karma. Asurya namate loka andena tamasavritaha tamste pratyabhigachanti yeke chatmahano janaha. Navate Loka Andena Tam Savrita Tamste Pritya Bigachanti Kichat Mahonajan Anijadi Kamanasoja Vio Nina Devam Apavam Pavam Asad Davato Nyana Titi Stad Tasminapumata Viswadadati Anijadi Kamanasoja Vio Nina Devam Apavam Pavam Asad Davato Nyana Titi Stad Tasminapumata Viswadadati Ta dejati, ta dejati, ta dure, ta dvantike, ta nantarasya sarvasya, ta dusarvasya shavayataha. Ta dejati, ta nejati, ta dure, ta dvantike, ta nantarasya sarvasya, ta dusarvasya shavayata. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupasiti sarvabhutesa chatmanam tato navajigupsate. Yasmin bhutani atmani evanupasiti sarvabhutesa chatmanam tato navajigupsate. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva budvijanataha tatrako mahakahasoka ekadvam anupasyataha. Sarvani bhutani atmeva budvijanataha tatrako mahakahasoka ekadvam anupasyataha. Saprayagaschuka makayam avrinam asnaviram sudam apapavidam kavir manisi paribhu swayambhu yatatat yutorutan vyadadat jasvatipyaha samabhyaha. Kavir Manasi Paribhu Swayambhu Yatatat Yotorutan Vidadatat Jasvatipya Samavyaha Andam Samaha Pravisanti Ye Vidyam Upasate Tato Bhuyavate Tamo Yayu Vidyayam Rataha Pravisanti Ye Vidyam Upasate Tato Bhuyavate Tamo Yayu Vidyayam Anya Devahur Vidyaya Anya Dahura Vidyaya Iti Susrumadhiranam Yenastad Vichachaksire Andam Susrumadhiranam Yena Stadram Vidyam Cha Yasya Stad Vidubayam Saha Vidyaya Meritam Tirpa Vidyayam Ritamasnite Vidyam Cha Yasya Stad Vidubayam Saha Vidyaya Meritam Tirpa Vidyayam Andam Tamaha Pravisanti Ye Sambhutim Upasyate Tato Bhuyayavate Tamo Yayu Sambhutam Rataha Prasanti Ye Sambhutim Upasite Tato Bhuyavite Tamo Yayu Sambhutam Rata Anya Devahur Sambhavat Anya Dahura Sambhavat Iti Susrumadhiranam Yena Stad Vichachakside Sambhutim Cha Vinasam Cha Yastad Vidubayam Saha Vinasena Miritam Tidva Sambhutam Ritamasnite Hiranmayana Patrena Satyasya Puritam Bukam Tatvam Pusam Pavrinu Satyadharma Yudristaye Patrena Satyasya Puritam Bukam Tatvam Pusam Pavrinu Satyadharma Yudristaye Pusane Kase Yamasriya Prajapatya Vyuharasmin Samaha Tejo Yate Rupam Kayanatamam Tate Pasyami Yosavaso Purushaha Sohamasmi Pusani Kaseya Masuya Prajapatya Vyuharasmin Samuha Tejo Yate Rupam Kayanatamam Tate Pasyami Yosavaso Purusham Vayuranilamam Ritam Etidam Basmantam Sariram Om Kratu Smara Kritam Smara Kratu Smara Kritam Smara Om Etidam Basmantam Sariram Om Kratu Smara Kritam Smara Kratu Smara Adne Naya Supatara Yasman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yodajmas Juhurana Meno Puyastam Tenama Uktim Vidima Om Tatsat and Nespari Yasman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yodajmas Juhurana Meno Puyastam Tenama Uktim Vidima Om Tatsat. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7. Verse number 12. Matsyo Yaganta Samaye Manuno Paladha Krishan Mayo Nikila Jiva Nikaya Keta Vishram Sitan Urubaye Salile Mukanme Adayatacha Vijarhara Haveda Margan translation by Srila Prabhupada. At the end of the millennium, the would-be Vaivaswata Manu of the name Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. During one day of Brahma, there are 14 manus, and at the end of each manu, there is devastation up to the earthly planets, and the vast water is fearful even to Brahma. So in the beginning of the would-be Vaivaswata Manu, such devastation would be seen by him. There would be many other incidents also, such as the killing of the famous Sankasura. This foretelling is by the past experience of Brahmaji, who knew that in that fearful, devastating scene, the Vedas would come out of his mouth, but the Lord in his fish incarnation not only would save all living entities, namely the demigods, animals, men, and great sages, but would also save the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. At the end of the millennium, there would be Vaivaswata Manu of the name Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water, at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is the great narration of the Matsya Avatar, and it's just a miraculous, amazing history, and it's been copied by the ancient Jews in the Old Testament. They also have the inundation story and the saving of all the plants and animals by Noah, who built an ark, and there was a great deluge, and eventually the waters resided. Noah's ark landed on Mount Ararat, which is in Armenia, modern Armenia, and then Noah descended from the ark, and he saved all the living entities and all the seeds and everything. So it's the same story. It's sort of reconfigured a little bit to fit into the Jewish history. But there's nothing new under the sun. And history always repeats itself. So the explanation, or the profound explanation of this whole pastime is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, and chapter number 8. I'm sorry, 8th canto, 24th chapter. And it says, this chapter describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead's incarnation as a fish. And it also describes the saving of Maharaj Satyavrata from an inundation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself by swamsa, his personal expansions, and namsa, his expansions as the living entities. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhanam vinasaya chaduskritam dharma samstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge, which says the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears on this planet for the protection of the sadhus or devotees, and for the destruction of the miscreants or non-devotees. He especially descends to give protection to the cows, the brahmanas, the demigods, the devotees, and the Vedic system of religion. Thus, he appears in various forms, sometimes as a fish, sometimes as a boar, sometimes in the Shringadeva, sometimes Vamanadeva, and so on. But in any form or incarnation, although he comes within the atmosphere of the material modes of nature, he is unaffected. This is a sign of his supreme controlling power. Although he comes within the material atmosphere, Maya cannot touch him. Therefore, no material qualities can be attributed to him in any degree. Once at the end of the previous kalpa, a demon named Hayagriva, now you know this incarnation Hayagriva, and there's also a demon named Hayagriva, so we shouldn't mix the two, wanted to take the Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma at the time of annihilation. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of a fish at the beginning of the period of Swayambhuva Manu and saved the Vedas. Now, just 1 second, I just want to check one thing. Yeah, it's spelled the same way. Hayagriva. It's spelled exactly the same way. Okay. So Brahma at that time of annihilation. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of a fish at the beginning of the period of Swayambhuva Manu and saved the Vedas during the reign of Chaksusa Manu. During the reign of Chaksusa Manu, there was a king named Satyavrata, who was a great pious ruler. To save him, the Lord appeared as the fish incarnation for a second time. So, in the boar incarnation, there's two. It happens twice. The fish incarnation also happens twice. So it doesn't happen just once. And so the Lord appeared as the fish incarnation for a second time. King Satyavrata later became the son of the sun god and was known as Shraddha-deva. He was established as Manu by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To receive the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Satyavrata engaged in the austerity of subsisting only by drinking water. Once, while performing this austerity on the bank of the river Kritamala, River, and offering oblations of water with the palm of his hand, he found a small fish. The fish appealed to the king for protection, asking the king to keep him in a safe place. Although the king did not know that the small fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, as a king he gave shelter to the fish and kept him in a water jug. The fish, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, wanted to show his potency to King Satyavrata, and thus he immediately expanded his body in such a way that he could no longer be kept in the jug of water. The king then put the fish in a big well, but the well was also too small. Then the king put the fish in a lake, but the lake was also unsuitable. Finally, the king put the fish in the sea, but even the sea could not accommodate him. Thus the king understood that the fish was no one else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he requested the Lord to describe his incarnations as a fish. The Personality of Godhead, being pleased with the king, informed him that within a week there would be an inundation throughout the universe, and that the fish incarnation would protect the king, along with the rishis, herbs, seeds, and other living entities, in a boat which would be attached to the fish's horn. After saying this, the Lord disappeared. King Satyavrata offered respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord and continued to meditate upon him. In due course of time, annihilation took place, and the king saw a boat coming near. After getting aboard with learned brahmanas and saintly persons, he offered prayers to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and thus he taught Maharaj Satyavrata and the saintly persons about Vedic knowledge from the core of the heart. King Satyavrata took his next birth as Vivaswata Manu, who is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Vivaswan Manave Praha. The sun god spoke the science of Bhagavad Gita to his son Manu. Because of being the son of Vivaswan, this Manu was known as Vivaswata Manu. So now it's text 1. Maharaj Parikshit said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is eternally situated in his transcendental position, yet he descends to this material world and manifests himself in various incarnations. His first incarnation was that of a great fish. O most powerful Sukadeva Goswami, I wish to hear from you the pastimes of the fish incarnation. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the Supreme Personality of God is all-powerful, yet he accepted the form of an uncommon fish. This is one of the 10 original incarnations of the Lord. Text 2 and 3. What was the purpose for which the Supreme Personality of God had accepted the abominable form of a fish, exactly as an ordinary living being accepts different forms under the laws of karma? The form of a fish is certainly condemned and full of terrible pain, O my Lord. What was the purpose of this incarnation? Kindly explain this to us, for hearing about the pastimes of the Lord is auspicious for everyone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Parikshit Maharaj's question to Sukadeva Goswami is based on this principle stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 4.7. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanyar bhavati bharata abhyuttanam dharmasya tadatmanam sijam yaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a prominent rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. The Lord appears in each incarnation to save the world from irreligious principles and especially to protect his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam. Vamanadev, for example, appeared to save the devotee Bali Maharaj. Similarly, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the abominable form of a fish, he must have done so to favor some devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was eager to know about the devotee for whom the Supreme Lord accepted this form. Text number 4. Sutta Goswami said, when Parikshit Maharaj thus inquired from Sukadeva Goswami, that most powerful saintly person began describing the pastimes of the Lord's incarnation as a fish. Shri Sukadeva Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles, and principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the forms of incarnations. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead generally appears in various types of incarnations to give protection to the cows and brahmanas. The Lord is described as Go Brahmana Hitayacha. In other words, he is always eager to benefit the cows and brahmanas. When Lord Krishna appeared, he purposefully became a cowherd boy and showed personally how to give protection to cows and calves. Similarly, he showed respect to Sudama Vipra, a real Brahmana. From the Lord's personal activities, human society should learn how to give protection specifically to the brahmanas and cows. Then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of cows, Brahminical culture then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of cows, Brahminical culture cannot be maintained. That's a very important point. Now we know why we have our farm and we're protecting cows. And now we're expanding that. We're taking cows that are going to be sent to the slaughterhouse. And we're also going to protect them. But that'll be a big endeavor because the cow lives 20, 25 years. So that means we're going to be taking in a lot more cows now. But we're not afraid to do this because we have full faith in Krishna. If we do the right thing, and this is what we should do. We should protect cows and stop the slaughter of cows. Our purpose is now to change the whole system of industrial agriculture and industrial dairies, in which they immediately kill the bulls. So this one farmer that we're working with, he gave us 2 bulls. He said, well, I'll give them to you instead of sending them to the slaughterhouse if you'll take care of them. And so, yeah, of course we'll take care of them. So from now on, we're going to get all these other cows. But that's all right. We have faith in Krishna, and that if we do the right thing, Krishna will help us. And then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. In other words, it says, from the Lord's personal activities, human society should learn how to give protection specifically to the brahmanas and cows. Then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of cows, Brahminical culture cannot be maintained. And without Brahminical culture, the aim of life cannot be fulfilled. The Lord therefore is described as Go Brahmana Hitaya, because his incarnation is only for the protection of the cows and brahmanas. Unfortunately, because in Kali Yuga there's no protection of the cows and Brahminical culture, everything is in a precarious position. If human society wants to be exalted, the leaders of society must follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and give protection to the cows and brahmanas and Brahminical culture. So we have to also protect the Brahmins. Text 6. Like the air passing through different types of atmosphere, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing sometimes as a human being and sometimes as a lower animal, is always transcendental. Because he is above the material modes of nature, he is unaffected by higher and lower forms. So, by the way, we should make a poster of this also. That whole purport. So that is the 8th canto, 24th chapter, verse, text number 5. 5. Not just the purport. Because he is above the material modes of nature, he is unaffected by higher and lower forms. Purport. The Supreme Personality of God is the master of the material nature. Maya Dakshena Bhakriti Suyatesa Characharam. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Therefore, being the supreme controller of the laws of nature, the Lord cannot be under their influence. An example given in this regard is that although the wind blows through many places, the air is not affected by the qualities of these places. Although the air sometimes carries the odor of a filthy place, the air has nothing to do with such a place. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being all good and all auspicious, is never affected by the material qualities like an ordinary living entity. Purusha Prakritisto hi bhunkte prakritijan gunan. Bhagavad Gita 13:21. When the living entity is in the material nature, he is affected by its qualities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is not affected. Disrespectfully, one who does not know this considers the Supreme Personality of Godhead an ordinary living being. Avajanati mam mudha. That's 9:11. Parambhavam ajananta. Such a conclusion is reached by the unintelligent because they are unaware of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Now we see how dangerous ignorance is. People will commit all kinds of terrible offenses and not even realize how bad it is. We see that every day. Like you go to the lunchroom in the high school back down the street here, or the middle school down that way, or the other high school a little farther down. The kids come in and they're eating meat like, it's like the best thing in the world. And they're committing so many sins every day, thinking that there's nothing wrong with it. Now we know why there's so much tragedy in this country. O King Parikshit, at the end of the past millennium, at the end of Brahma's day, because Lord Brahma sleeps during the night, Annihilation took place, and the three worlds were covered by the water of the ocean. At the end of Brahma's day, so he's talking about Brahma's night, right? Now he's talking about Brahma's day. When Brahma felt sleepy and desired to lie down, the Vedas were emanating from his mouth, and the great demon named Hayagriva stole the Vedic knowledge. So he's sort of yawning or whatever, and the Vedas slipped out of his mouth. Text 9. Understanding the acts of the great demon Hayagriva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is full of all opulences, assumed the form of a fish and saved the Vedas by killing the demon. Purport. Because everything was inundated by water, to save the Vedas, it was necessary for the Lord to assume the form of a fish. Text 10. During the Chaksusa Manvantara, that's the one before the Vaivasvata Muni, Vaivasvata Manu, there was a great king named Satyavrata, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Personality of Godhead. Satyavrata performed austerities by subsisting only on water. Purport. The Lord assumed one fish incarnation to save the Vedas at the beginning of the Swayambhuva Manvantara, and at the end of the Chaksusa Manvantara, the Lord again assumed the form of a fish just to favor the great king named Satyavrata. As there were two incarnations of Varaha, there were also two incarnations of fish, or Matsya. The Lord appeared as one fish incarnation to save the Vedas by killing Hayagriva, and he assumed the other fish incarnation to show favor to King Satyavrata. Text 11. In this, the present millennium, King Satyavrata later became the son of Vivasvan, the king of the sun planet, and was known as Shradadeva. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was given the post of Manu. Text 12. One day, while King Satyavrata was performing austerities by offering water on the bank of the river Kritamala, a small fish appeared in the water in his palms. Satyavrata, the king of Dravida Desha, threw the fish into the water of the river, along with the water in his palm. O King Parikshit, descendant of Bharata. Text 14. With an appealing voice, the poor small fish said to King Satyavrata, who was very merciful, "My dear king, protector of the poor, why are you throwing me in the water of the river, where there are other aquatics who can kill me? I am very much afraid of them." In the Matsya Purana, it is said, Ananta Shakti Bhagavan Matsya Rupi Janardana, and so forth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead possesses unlimited potency. Nonetheless, in his pastime in the form of a fish, he begged protection from King Satyavrata. Next, to please himself, King Satyavrata, not knowing that the fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, decided with great pleasure to give the fish protection. Purport. Here's an example of giving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead even without knowledge. Such service is called Agyata Sukriti. King Satyavrata wanted to show his own mercy, not knowing that the fish was Lord Vishnu. By such unknowing devotional service, one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Service rendered to the Supreme Lord, knowingly or unknowingly, never goes in vain. Next, text 16. The merciful king, being moved by the pitiable words of the fish, placed the fish in a water jug and brought him to his own residence. Text 17. But in one night that fish grew so much that he could not move his body comfortably in the water of the pot. He then spoke to the king as follows. "Oh, my dear king, I do not like living in this water pot with such great difficulty. Therefore, please find some other better reservoir of water where I can live comfortably." Text 19. Then, taking the fish out of the water pot, the king threw him in a large well. But within a moment, the fish developed to the length of 3 cubits. The fish then said, "My dear king, this reservoir of water is not fit for my happy residence. Please give me a more extensive pool of water, for I have taken shelter of you." Next one. O Maharaj Parikshit, the king took the fish from the well and threw him in a lake. But the fish then assumed a gigantic form exceeding the extent of the water. The fish then said, "O king, I am a large aquatic, and this water is not at all suitable for me. Now kindly find some way to save me. It would be better to put me in the water of a lake that will never reduce." Next. When thus requested, King Satyavata took the fish to the largest reservoir of water. But when that also proved insufficient, the king at last threw the gigantic fish into the ocean. While being thrown in the ocean, the fish said to King Satyavata, "O hero, in this water there are very powerful and dangerous sharks that will eat me. Therefore you should not throw me in this place." Next. After hearing these sweet words from the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a fish, the king, being bewildered, asked him, "Who are you, sir? You simply bewilder us." Next. "My lord, in one day you have expanded yourself for hundreds of miles, covering the water of the river and the ocean. Before this, I had never seen or heard of such an aquatic animal." Text 27. "My lord, you are certainly the inexhaustible Supreme Personality Godhead, Narayana, Sri Hari. It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic." 28. "O my lord, master of the creation, maintenance and annihilation, O best of the enjoyers, Lord Vishnu, you are the leader and the destination of surrendered souls like us. Therefore let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." Text 29. "All your pastimes and incarnations certainly appear for the welfare of all living entities. Therefore, my lord, I wish to know the purpose for which you have assumed this form of a fish." Next. "O my lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, the worship of the demigods who are in the bodily concept of life is fruitless in all respects. But because you are the supreme friend and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet is never useless. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish." Purport. The demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Surya are ordinary living entities who are differentiated parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord expands himself thoroughly through the living beings, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. His personal Vishnu forms, which are all spiritual, are called Swamsa, and the living entities, who are differentiated parts, are called Vivinansa. Some of the Vivinansa forms are spiritual, and some are a combination of matter and spirit. The conditioned souls in the material world are different from their external bodies made of material energy. Thus, the demigods living in the upper planetary systems and the living entities living in the lower planetary systems are of the same nature. Nonetheless, those living as human beings on this planet are sometimes attracted to worshiping the demigods in higher planetary systems. Such worship is temporary. As the human beings on this planet have to change their bodies, tata dehantara prabdi, the living entities known as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and so on, will also have to leave their bodies. Tata dehantara prapti. The living entities known as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and so on will also have to change their bodies in due course of time. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Antavatu phalam tesam tad bhavati alpamevisam, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Kamaistaistar hitagyana prapadyante nyadevata. Bhagavad Gita 7:20. Those who do not know the position of the demigods are inclined to worship the demigods for some material purpose, but the results of such worship are never permanent. Consequently, here it is said, Yate tar risam pritag atmanam satam pado pasarpanam risha bhavet. In other words, if one is to worship someone else, he must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then his worship will never be fruitless. Swapamapyasya dharmasya jayate mahato bayat. Even a slight attempt to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a permanent asset. Therefore, as recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, tyakva deham, tyakva swara, dharmam, charanam bhujam, harir. One should take to the worship of the lotus feet of Hari, even if this means giving up the so-called occupational duty assigned because of the particular body one has accepted. Because worship in terms of the body is temporary, it does not bear any permanent fruit, but worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives immense benefit. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Text 31. Sukadeva Goswami said, when King Satyavrata spoke in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who at the end of the Yuga had assumed the form of a fish to benefit his devotee and enjoy his pastimes in the water of inundation, responded as follows. Text 32. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, who can subdue your enemies? On the seventh day from today, the three worlds, Bhur, Bhuva, and Swar, will be merged into the water of inundation. Text 33. When all the three worlds merge into the water, a large boat sent by me will appear before you. Thereafter, O king, you shall collect all types of herbs and seeds and load them on that great boat. Then, accompanied by the 7 rishis and surrounded by all kinds of living entities, you shall get aboard that boat, and without moroseness you shall easily travel with your companions on the ocean of inundation, the only illumination being the effulgence of the great sages, rishis. Then, as the boat is tossed about by the powerful winds, attach the vessel to my horn by means of the great serpent Vasuki, for I shall be present by your side. Pulling the boat with you and all the rishis in it, O king, I shall travel in the water of devastation until the night of Lord Brahma's slumber is over. This purport, this particular devastation actually took place not during the night of Lord Brahma, but during his day, for it was during the time of Chaksusamanu. Brahma's night takes place when Brahma goes to sleep, but in the daytime there are 14 manus, one of whom is Chaksusamanu. Therefore, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura comments that although it was daytime for Lord Brahma, Brahma felt sleepy for a short time by the supreme will of the Lord. This short period is regarded as Lord Brahma's night. This has been elaborately discussed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita. The following is a summary of his analysis. Because Agastya Muni cursed Swayambhuva Manu, during the time of Swayambhuva Manu, a devastation took place. This devastation is mentioned in Matsya Purana. During the time of Chaksusa Manu, by the supreme will of the Lord, there was suddenly another pralaya, or devastation. This is mentioned by Markandeya Rishi in the Vishnu Dharmottara. At the end of Manu's time, there is not necessarily a devastation, but at the end of the Chaksusa Manvantara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by his illusory energy, wanted to show Satyavrata the effects of devastation. Srila Sridhar Swami also agrees with this opinion. The Lagu Bhagavatamrita says, you will be thoroughly advised and favored by me, and because of your inquiries, everything about my glories, which are known as Param Brahma, will be manifest within your heart. Thus you will know everything about me. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivisto matak smriti jnanam apohanamcha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, is situated in everyone's heart, and from him come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The Lord reveals himself in proportion to one's surrender to him. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. In responsive cooperation, the Lord reveals himself in proportion to one's surrender. That which is revealed to one who fully surrenders is different from what is revealed to one who surrenders partially. Everyone naturally surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, either directly or indirectly. The conditioned soul surrenders to the laws of nature in material existence. But when one fully surrenders to the Lord, material nature does not act upon him. Such a fully surrendered soul is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Mam evaye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. One who has fully surrendered to the Lord has no fear of the modes of material nature, for everything is but an expansion of the Lord's glories. Sarvam klav idam brahma. And these glories are gradually revealed and realized. The Lord is the supreme purifier. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam. Bhagavad Gita 10:12. The more one is purified, the more he wants to know about the Supreme, the more the Lord reveals to him. Full knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan is revealed to the pure devotee. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:11, Tesham evanukam partam aham agyanamam tama nasyami bhavasto jnanadipena basvato. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of transcendental knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Okay, we'll stop right there. This is all ecstatic information of the fish incarnation, and it keeps going on, and then the fish himself is going to speak, so it's very auspicious. You can read it. And the main takeaway is that the Lord can appear in these amazing forms like animals and fish, and he has all of his potencies, and he performs actions that are impossible to emulate or to for any ordinary human being to perform. And yet people still refuse to worship the Lord. So it shows you how profound Maya is. And although all this information is available, the process of liberation or freedom from birth and death is very easy in Kali Yuga. Still, they adamantly stay addicted to bad qualities and habits and refuse. And even some of our devotees, they refuse to regularly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. But if you regularly hear this, you become purified, and you develop absolute strong faith. So there are people that I know, they're devotees. They regularly come and ask me for advice. I give them advice, and they regularly don't follow it. It's amazing. It's amazing. And that's because they never come to hear classes. Therefore, even though they're in difficulty, they'll come and ask advice, and they don't follow it, which is amazing. I can't even understand how that's possible, but I see it with my own eyes and ears, so it's interesting. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
It's amazing, actually, because you say the first thing, Shravan. Very clearly, right?
Yeah.
Shravan.
Yeah.
The process of devotional service, one must hear, right?
How can you maintain yourself if you don't hear? It's going to, there's so many issues coming up in life, and we have to constantly hear. Otherwise, we become overwhelmed by those issues.
And then where they ask advice, then if you can't follow it. Why are they asking advice?
Well, Prabhupada gives the example. He said, you go to a doctor diagnoses you, he gives you the medicine, you go home and throw the medicine away.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
You gonna sing?
Yeah. Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandamui Savadana Mate
Vandamoyi Savadana Mate
Janara Prasadevai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Jara Prasadevai Baba Tariya Jai
Krishna Prapti Oya Hoite
Krishna Prapti Oya Aite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Sitete Ko Diyo Akya
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Arnako Diyo Mane Asha
Shri Guru Charane Rati Esse Utamagati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Esayu Tamagati
Ye Pasade Pure Sava Asa
Je Prasade Pure Saba Asha
Chakshudan Dila Je Janme Janme Prabhu Se
चक्षुदान दिलये जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
Vivyan De Prakasito
विवेज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
Prema Bhakti Chahavate Abhidya Vinasajate
प्रेम भक्ति जाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
Vedegaya Janara Charito
वेद गाय जरा चरित
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अगम जनर बंधु
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अगम जनर बंधु
Lokanath Lokya Rajivana
लोकनाथ लोके राजीवाना
Lokanath Lokya Rajivana
लोकनाथ लोके राजीवाना
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Diha Mori Padachaya
प्रभु कर दो हे मोरे पदचय
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Diha Mori Padachaya
प्रभु कर दो हे मोरे पदचय
Ebe Asku Sukti Bhuvana
Ebeas tu sukribuvana
Ebe Asku Sukti Bhuvana
Ebeas tu sukribuvana
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajika Chasta Tadasatana Shri Shiman's Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sri Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Bhait Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakti Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanand. All glories to assembled. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavani ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. The lotus feet, or spiritual matter, the only way by which we can attain the pure devotion. Bow down to this lotus feet, the great honor, by His grace, one can cross the ocean of teal suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with joy.